What's the most romantic gesture that happened in public that made everyone cry? I've been lurking forever but finally made an account to share this. Last weekend I was at our town's annual spring festival. Think food trucks, local bands, bouncy castles for kids. I was helping my friend Ruby at one of the info booths when I noticed this older man kinda awkwardly trying to set up chairs by himself near the small stage area. TBH, I was bored of just sitting there, so I told Ruby I'd be back in a few and went to help him. The guy, Leroy he told me, was probably mid-70s with those rough, weathered hands older people get. He seemed surprised when I offered to help but accepted after his third attempt to refuse. As we arranged the chairs in a semicircle, he kept checking his phone and looking around anxiously. When I asked if everything was okay, he hesitated before telling me he was setting up for his wife Doris and her friends. Something about the way he said her name made me curious, so I stuck around longer than I meant to. Turns out it was their 50th anniversary that day. 50 years with the same person, y'all. Can't even imagine. The weird part was that Doris didn't know he was there. Their friends Jean and Tucker had taken her for coffee as a distraction. I was about to head back to Ruby when Leroy's grandson George showed up with a small speaker and some other stuff. George looked stressed, muttering about how the Bluetooth wasn't connecting properly and checking the time. I'm naturally nosy, working on it LOL, so I asked what was going on. Leroy explained that at their wedding they couldn't afford a photographer, so they had no pictures of their first dance. For 50 years Doris had teased him about how he'd stumbled through it, stepping on her toes. Then this man drops the bombshell. He'd been secretly taking dance lessons for 6 months at the community center. Every Tuesday and Thursday he'd told Doris he was going to physical therapy for his knee problems. Meanwhile he was learning to waltz. I offered to help them finish setting up, partly because I was invested now, and partly because George was clearly struggling with the tech. While untangling some fairy lights, Leroy had thought of everything. I noticed a small black velvet box tucked into his pocket. When I asked about it, he seemed embarrassed, but showed me. It was a simple diamond eternity band. Nothing flashy, just classic. He hadn't been able to afford a proper ring back then. About 20 minutes later, I spotted Tucker's bright red hat in the crowd. Next to him were two older women, Jean, I assumed, and a petite lady with silver hair in a floral dress. Had to be Doris. I nudged Leroy and pointed them out. Y'all should have seen his face. This man literally straightened his tie. Yes, he wore a tie to a community festival in 80-degree weather, and smoothed his thinning hair like a teenager on a first date. 50 years together, and he still got nervous seeing her walk up. What got me was Doris's reaction when she spotted him. Pure confusion at first. She clearly wasn't expecting him there. Then when she noticed the chairs and the setup, her expression changed to something I can't really describe. Not just surprise, but like a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. The local band finished their song, and the singer announced they had a special request. Leroy walked over to Doris, said something I couldn't hear, and got down on one knee, which looked painful at his age TBH. The look on her face switched from confusion to shock to this kind of dawning realization. When he stood up again, the band started playing Can't Help Falling in Love, apparently their wedding song. And then, this man who joked about having 2 left feet for half a century led his wife into a perfect waltz. It wasn't like professional or anything, but it was so obvious how hard he'd practiced. Doris was crying, then laughing, then crying again, as he guided her confidently around their little makeshift dance floor. No stumbles, no stepped on toes. I glanced around and literally everyone was watching. This random teen girl next to me was pretending something was in her eye. A mom with a toddler on her hip was openly wiping tears. Even some guy in a snapback who looked like he'd just stopped by for the food trucks was standing there transfixed. At the end of the song, Leroy carefully dipped Doris and kissed her. The crowd straight up lost it. People were clapping and cheering. I was legit ugly crying at this point. As they finished, I noticed George had arranged for a professional photographer to capture the whole thing. 50 years later, they would finally have photos of their dance.